Hi all, it's Brian from think1265 here. I hope you've had a good half term. Is it safe to come out yet? Have all the caps lock keys broken? Here we are, pretty much exactly where we were over a year ago today.
Same as it ever was.
Teachers are back on ASOS. The management side are in a huff with teachers because they're back on ASOS. And everything that stands between wee Johnny and his Nobel Prize in Roblox will be blamed on teachers being on ASOS. So, what happens now? Well, in this country we have a proud track record of solution-based thinking.
Massa's Bunfig!
We never dwell on blame.
Massa's Bunfig!
We never, ever get stuck in the past.
Massa's Bunfig!
But to understand the way out of this industrial dispute, we do need to travel back in time a year and talk about the W word, which is driving the current dispute. This time last year, teachers had been on ASOS since the late Paleolithic era. The teachers' dispute was over both pay and workload, and had been made worse by the fact that the Stormont Assembly had been shut down for a few years, so there wasn't even anyone to negotiate with. Now, I'm led to understand that Stormont was shut down because one party had issues about the way the Westminster government was handling Brexit. But that couldn't possibly be the case, as taking action in order to add leverage to a negotiation is a corrosive thing to do. Teachers stood down from industrial action in April last year after agreeing a detailed and comprehensive pay offer.
I'll give you my word as a Spaniard.
In return for stopping industrial action, including ASOS, teachers were promised a significant and backdated increase in pay, a time-bound set of working groups looking at elements of workload issues, a detailed new workload agreement which came into force in August 2024. That workload agreement guaranteed teachers some key rights and key entitlements in their working lives.
I swear on the soul of my father, Domingo Montoya.
Including, among other things, the right to reasonable and equitable workloads, the right to a reasonable work-life balance, the entitlement to workloads which can normally be completed within the working day, a mechanism to resolve disputes if they aren't receiving these rights and entitlements. And the workload agreement even addressed the practice of doing PPA outside of the school day, as per the Zombie Clause 8.1 in the Jordanstown Agreement. All sides agreed that this practice was not considered satisfactory, which was a massive step forward in reducing the drip feed of burnout caused by teachers being expected to work at home for free. If this workload agreement had been implemented in our schools, it would have been great. Instead, in many schools, the opposite happened. There was widespread horror among teachers as overexcitable senior leaders, freed from the perceived constraints of ASOS, were finally able to cry havoc and let slip the spreadsheets of war.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
Everyone!
The fact is, in many schools in Northern Ireland, TNC 2024/2 was never fully implemented for teachers, and in some schools it wasn't implemented at all.
Have a look at what you could have won.
But the workload agreement wasn't a pick and mix type of deal. It was a legally binding contractual arrangement between teachers and their employers, which every school in Northern Ireland had a duty to implement.
And that is the letter of the law.
In fact, I feel sorry for Ms Bremner and Mr Marlowe from the management side, as it's their signature on the deal that so many schools chose not to implement. So every time a school failed to implement the agreement they'd signed, the teachers in that school had another reason not to trust the word of the management side.
Lies do not become us.
As far as we know, think1265 were the only body, and by body I mean 2 full-time teachers and a cat named Florence, that carried out any form of survey about the degree of implementation of the workload deal.
A census taker once tried to test me.
To be fair to EA, which is a fairness I'm not sure think1265 enjoy in return,
Oh, behave.
they produced some excellent training for principals about time budgeting in the light of the agreement last summer. Had schools followed even just this guide, things would have been better.
So close.
But many didn't, and here we are, back to where we were just under a year ago. Worse even, as the Minister seems to be refusing to talk to the teachers' representatives while we remain on industrial action. So, what's next?
Somebody once wrote, "Hell is the impossibility of reason."
Hundreds of teachers have told us time and again that the only way they can enjoy anything resembling an achievable and reasonable working life is through ASOS. I believe that many teachers looked at the pay offer before half-term as a simple choice. On one hand, there were more promises that workload would be fixed at some point in the future. This was couched in unfortunate language and prefaced by the most hated line in the Jordanstown Agreement. On the other hand was ASOS, which meant that some of the most onerous additional elements of the workload would be removed with immediate effect. For many, it was a no-brainer.
Shut up and take my money!
So, what's next?
I hate it already, and it's only been a week.
Well, teachers, you need to follow the instructions of your union fully, all of them, from tomorrow. Teachers have had their say about the pay deal in the survey, but as braver activists than us have said, what matters is deeds, not words. Since it's likely the dispute will escalate to full strike action,
Let me see your war face.
then at that point you'll need to find a placard and get on the picket line. We've picked a fight, and now we have to fight it. A lot is said about solidarity.
Right! This calls for immediate discussion!
But solidarity is the only weapon working people have when they're in a dispute with their employer. And I'm not talking about working class.
I know my place.
I'm talking about working people. If you depend on your salary from teaching to pay your bills and keep body and soul together, then you're a working person. You just happen to work in a school. And if you're a working person, you need to stand together with your colleagues to ensure you get the terms, conditions and pay you deserve. The more of us who fully follow our action instructions, the more powerful the action will be. The more powerful the action, the quicker the dispute will be over. It is really that simple. Now, if you're a school leader, employer, negotiator or senior stakeholder, please come up with an effective mechanism to get TNC 2024/2 implemented in our schools. There's no point reinventing the wheel again when we haven't even fitted the previous one. So can't we all at least try the existing workload agreement to see how it works?
That would be great. Okay.
We remain convinced that the implementation of the existing workload agreement is the key to fixing the workload crisis, resolving this current pay dispute, and rebuilding the trust within the education system that we've lost. You're the people with the seats on the TNC. You're the people with the power to instigate positive change. And, most importantly, some of you have the authority to ensure that schools do what you ask them to do.
And you will respect my authority!
So can you use that power to get TNC 2024/2 sorted out, like everyone agreed to do last year?
Okay. Any questions? No? Good. Carry on.
In the great scheme of things, think 1265 are a nothing. We're a flea on the raggedy pelt of education in Northern Ireland. But like every other person in this country, we want schools to do well. We want teachers to have the time, space and energy to deliver extraordinary learning experiences, and we want to see this happen every day. We want learners to benefit from exceptional teaching and learning so that this little country continues to punch far above its weight across the world outside the school gates. So come on then, let's try and break the workload vicious cycle once and for all in 2025.
Let me see your real war face. Ah! You don't scare me. Work on it. Sir, yes, sir.